weekly press conference. Coach will start us off with an opening statement. Please raise your hands for questions. Coach?
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Just going back last week, obviously disappointed in the last 4 minutes of that game, 5 minutes, and thought our guys hung well the first 55, and it wasn't perfect, obviously, but we're still in the game, and we get that to 3 points with 11 minutes to go, and we gave up a 3rd and 10, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 2 on that drive, and a 4th and 1 also on that same drive, and then the touchdown run by their quarterback on a bad snap, very unfortunate. But and then it kind of unraveled from there. But I think certainly the positives were the first 55 minutes of that game of being able to battle on the road against a team like Iowa State, a very good program, was a positive. Obviously, we had some negatives. Penalties, negative for sure. I think we ended up with 9 on offense, including 4 false starts by the guys up front. Punt team was not very good, and it was a multitude of things. I think we got to get the snap right, we got to get the punch where they need to be punted, and then we got to cover better. Certainly the field position battle we did not win, which was unfortunate. Gave up a fake punt as well to give them another first down, and I think they got 3 points out of that. So certainly got to do better in that regard. This week, pretty much ditto as last week when you think about going to the Midwest, playing a really good football team on the road at 8 o'clock. So it's a lot of similarities when we look at this. I think 2 programs very similar, Iowa State, Kansas State, 2 of the best programs in the Big 12. Coached very well, kids play hard. They are coming off a couple of losses as well, but so just like Iowa State was last week. So it's very similar. Obviously have to have a great week of practice and to give ourselves a chance to go try to get this win.
When you get into a game like that where your running game is really controlling what you're doing offensively, how do you keep that rhythm in the passing game? Because it felt like that, like when you needed it on 3rd down, you just weren't able to dial it up and get it back on track.
Yeah, and it was tough. I mean, we mentioned this after they didn't blitz us in that game. Last year when they came here, it was a bunch of blitzes, and they did not blitz this game. Dropping 8, keeping guys back. So when you do have some penalties, now it's long yardage. It's very difficult to push the ball down the field when they got 8 guys that are back 8 to 10 yards, and that made it difficult. We did miss a couple throws, and we had a couple drops that I thought were 12 for 18 that certainly would have helped. One of them was a running back, Evan Pryor out of the backfield was wide open. That would have been a touchdown. I mean, that was 79 yards right there that you love to have back. Because that would have put us up 10, right before half. And so, but plays like that, man, those are momentum plays, and you got to be able to hit those plays. But as far as the 3rd downs, and you're looking at, dropping the coverage off and not getting in the rhythm throwing the football, there's certainly something to say for that. If you are throwing it more, they were giving up the run game pretty good for us. I thought Corey ran really hard in the game, had over 100 yards again. Sorsby, I think 141 rushing, his best rushing output, and so we did some positive things with that. But we certainly needed to be able to hit some of those throws to be able to keep the chains moving as well as score the touchdown.
Is their defense similar, and do you expect to see 8 dropped until you solve it?
Yeah, their defense is similar. They're a little bit more aggressive though. The big difference, I think, their run defense is really good. So it's kind of a flip, really, with Iowa State. They're very pressure-oriented, keeping everybody close to the line of scrimmage. They're playing a lot more man coverage in the back end so they can get more hats to stop the run. So I think in that regard, it's a little bit different. But structurally, very similar. It's a 3-3-5 defense, and so they can drop 8. You see that on film, but they also can. They bring a lot more pressure, and they feel more comfortable doing that as well. So it's an outstanding defense. They have a lot of good players. I think they're the 38er defensive ends leading the Big 12 in sacks. And so they want to continue to put pressure on you, I think, and that's what they've been known to do defensively.
You look at the stat sheet, X and Joe had 3 combined receptions. Is there kind of a part of what you do where there's parts of your playbook that you want to scheme plays open for them? And is there any idea to do that more often?
Who was that?
X and Joe.
Yeah. I mean, I think those, certainly 2 of our playmakers in the throw game. We missed a throw to Xavier in the game, which it was the one we actually hit earlier in the game. It was the same play. We just missed it. Then he had a drop late in the game. But yeah, we just didn't go in the game thinking we're gonna throw the ball a lot against Iowa State just because of the structure of defense. And they were one of the top pass defense in the country, and still are obviously. But and then Joe, as another guy, we got to be able to get him the ball. I think maybe 4, 5, 6, 7 catches a game is where he should be at, and just giving him a chance and opportunity to make plays. I think it's certainly something we have to continue to do as we work forward these last 2 games for sure.
Have you run into depth issues there with the receivers, with guys you plan to redshirt and guys that are injured, or are those just who you're rolling with?
Yeah, we're just rolling with these guys that we have, right now. And I think Xavier ended up with 55 snaps Saturday, this past game. You got to roll with the guys that we feel like give us the best chance to win, and let those guys play. And hopefully we're able to get the ball to them. Obviously, a lot more than we did this past weekend.
Are you seeing the receivers struggle to get open more this part of the season than earlier?
Well, yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's who we're playing. I think it's how their structure of their defense has been. Where they're putting their safeties, and certainly early in the season we had a lot more opportunities. I felt like, but as the season's going on, it's not as much. I think probably the last best game we had thrown was Texas Tech. But I also think Texas Tech's weakness is that pass defense. So I think sometimes I think we got to give credit to who we're playing and how their structure is and how they play. How good are they? And like Colorado, to me, they had a really good man-to-man scheme, so we had a hard time getting open. So therefore our completion percentage was not very high. This past weekend, these guys dropped a bunch of guys into coverage trying to deter you from throwing the football, so we took advantage of the run game. So so it's a little bit of both. I think sometimes having problems getting open, but other times I think some of the teams we're playing, their structure is built to stop some of that.
Sounds like they want to run Avery Johnson more.
Yeah.
And then Giddens is yet another top running back you have to stop.
I know, another good running back behind the Big 12. So, yeah, these guys already over 1,000 yards, 31. He can go. He's a really good running back. They have a good offensive line too that block really well. And I think the quarterback, he's tall, can really run, has a big arm. It looked like early, maybe mid-season, because I think he may have tweaked something. Against I forget who it was against, maybe Colorado, and so didn't run as much. And I think now probably getting healthy, and they probably feel like he gives them a good chance. Let's try to run him a little bit more. So we'll probably see some of that as well.
Kind of going off my last question, what needs to happen over the next 2 weeks, maybe even the off season, to just kind of go from this team does this well, but we're just going to beat it at the end of the day. Like we're just going to be better in that area.
Yeah, I think we got to continue to grow and as we move forward, particularly these next 2 weeks, we got to be able to, in the passing game, do a much better job in that and getting the ball down the field. We all feel like that's certainly something that we got to get better at. I think continue to expand on everything that we've done offensively, which we had a solid year. Offensively, we just missed opportunities. I think turnovers last couple weeks. Where Sorsby hadn't been turning the ball over, and he's got 4 in the last 2 games. So. And that certainly doesn't help you win. We all know that. And if you go back and look at a lot of these games, Kansas State the last 2 weeks, the turnovers is what keeps you from winning. It's just the bottom line. And so you got to take care of the football. I think defensively, trying to figure out ways how we can get the ball back. We have 4 interceptions, which is, I think, last in the Big 12. And, so we got to do a better job with that, as you think about in the offseason. Trying to find some guys that can help with that. Is it more pass rushers? So now you put more pressure on the quarterback to get it out earlier, and some better cover guys. So it's just a little bit of both maybe. So those are the things I think. Obviously, the weaknesses that we have that we got to get better at.
Is it tough to make any sense of this league because they lost to Houston, a team that you drilled pretty good. You beat Arizona State. They lost to Arizona State. On the other hand, Kansas State's still a pretty good team.
Yeah. No, you can't. It's so hard to look at any other week. I don't think you can do that this year in college football. For what you do one week compared to the next week, it's impossible. I think it's really that week. It's matchups between the teams that are different. Some teams match up better with other teams, so I think that's the thing. I think it's also injuries. like when you're playing somebody, who's playing, who's not playing, and then it's also where you're playing and when you're playing. Is it at home? Is it at night? Is it, all those type things. All that stuff comes into play. I mean, it's a real thing. I think it's real easy just to sit back and just look at somebody's schedule, or just to look at a team and, oh, that team beat that team. But you don't really dive into it. Like, where was it at? Who was playing? Who was out? All those things matter. Who's your schedule? Is your schedule tougher than somebody? So all these things matter. And so, but at the end of the day, you got to look at this 1 week. How do we match up with Kansas State? How can we play better to go get this win? And I think that's ultimately what it comes down to.
West Virginia drive start was their own 41. I think this week it was their own 36 for Iowa State. A lot of that is coming in the punt game, and you're not winning field position like you were early in the season. How do you get that back on track? But obviously Fletch is a great player, but the performance hasn't been there.
No, the last 2 weeks have not been there. He's got to punt the ball better, bottom line. We got to cover better, but but it starts with the snap, and then the next thing is the punt. We got to get good hang time. Some people think, well, you just boom the ball. Well, that's not necessarily it. We got to get hang time, and we got to get in the spot where our guys are covering. So it all matters. If you punt a low kick and you punt a little bit away from our cover guys, they're going to get some yards, and so a lot of it comes back to that. But that's his job, and he's been outstanding his whole career. So last couple of weeks of uncharacteristic for him. We anticipate him getting it back, and we have to. I mean, we'll work on it all this week. His brother will also punt this week, so Max, and so we'll, both of them will get good looks this week. We have to do a better job with it because it's such a critical part, because it's such a fine line for winning and losing, and whether you're starting on the 41 or compared to the 25, I mean, that's that could be 3 points per drive. I mean, that adds up at the end of the day. So we got to do a better job with that.
And Max has a red shirt.
He does.
If you want to use it.
That's right. Exactly right. Yeah. So he could play and still redshirt because you get the 4 games. Yeah, absolutely.
Any update on Corleone?
Yeah. I mean, I think he's doing better. I think he's, certainly had several guys that got dinged up in the game, but I think most all the guys are trending in the right way, and hopefully we'll all be available this weekend.
Is there any rhyme or reason to the fault to this week being the week that they struggled with false starts, with procedure type stuff on the offensive line?
Man, no. I mean, we worked on it all last week because we never played at Iowa State. Don't know how loud it was. So we had the speakers going loud. We had speakers, and we had guys holding speakers in the huddle. I mean, that's how we were trying to make it loud. We had the D line on the scout teams making noises and shifting and moving. I mean, we didn't have any issues in practice. I mean, we simulated it as much as we could, and getting the game, and things happen. I mean, and it was 4 different guys. It wasn't just like it's the same person. I mean, it was just 4 different guys randomly throughout the day. So I don't know that there's a rhyme or reason for it. It's just we'll continue to work on it and try to get better with it. Because we're putting our offense in some bad situations when that happens.
Did you simulate the snap count by having the defense smack somebody on the rear end?
Yeah. We need to do that. We've done that in the past, and we've gotten offenses to jump off sides on that too. So I think it's hard sometimes for the referees to see that, because they think the guy's just moving somebody over, but it actually sounds just like our clap. So that was certainly one of the ones. I think that was John Williams that jumped off on that one.
You'll know more today, but how, after that disappointment, getting the guys home and meeting with them again, kids tend to be resilient, but how were they coming back for this week?
Yeah, I mean, I think Sunday, it was, a little bit somber. Everybody's disappointed. I think yesterday, man, great bounce back from our guys. Leadership, we meet with the guys on Monday, our leadership group, man, they were fired up, hungry to get back out on the field this week, another opportunity, and that's what you want. As I told them, if we're 10-0, 5-5, 0-10, doesn't matter. This week, none of that matters. It's how you come to work every day, how you prepare this week. How much enthusiasm are you going to have today when we go out there and practice? And I think yesterday, any indication they'll be ready to go.
The clap is obviously used a lot around college football. What's the philosophy behind doing that instead of just a traditional cadence?
Yeah, I think just because when you're on the road, sometimes it's more difficult to hear a voice cadence and people yelling and talking and all that, but that is distinct sound. And you could be, 80,000 people and you can hear that clap. It's kind of crazy. When we first started doing it many years ago, I didn't really believe it, but it worked. And so I think that's why everybody just kind of jumped to the clap. And, but it's, you can work silent, cadence. If you do that, you're a little bit late off the ball up front. You work the cadence with the clap, and then hopefully that is distinct enough where only your guys hear that, and then you're able to go. But obviously there's some issues with it at times. But but I think, and certainly I feel like it's more on the road than it is at home, for us. But something we'll keep working on. We've been using the clap now probably 6, 7, 8 years, something like that. So it's been good.
You guys always talk to the referees before the game. Is that a lobbying point, I would assume?
Yeah, because I do think there are times where defenses try to do things to make the O-line or offense jump off sides, whether it be shifting, moving, making yelling a call, and or smacking a guy on the butt to move over. I mean, all those things could affect offenses, and when it does affect the offense, then they're going to do more of it. And I think that's been seeming to happen more and more against us because we are falling prey to that. But I think hopefully, if we eliminate that, you don't hear or see much more of that as we move forward.
One of the big topics at Kansas State's coach presser yesterday was defenses manipulating the game clock or the play clock. Do you think that's something that will get a look at the end of this year, because it's very prominent across the sport?
Very prominent. I mean, absolutely needs to. I understand where it came from and all that. To get if they're subbed and they want to give that defense time to sub. And if you don't, you catching guys. I liked it when it was before they held it. I mean, if we sub, you better be ready to sub right now, and they better be sprinting on and off. And it'll speed things up, because the way it is now, if the clock gets to 18 seconds and the offense subs, they will get a delayed game if we sub. That's what they're telling us. And so, because they're going to hold it for 3 to 4 seconds, you don't have to sub. Then all of a sudden, right before he comes down, you start subbing, and then they're right back up again. And then they allow you to jog on and then jog slowly off. Slow walk off. And depending on who the referee is, they'll speed it up sometimes or not. They'll warn you. But as I tell the referees, the coaches and the players are going to go as much as you give them. They're going to take every bit of it and then some. And so it is definitely an issue and a problem. We did it against Iowa State. They had to call timeout, and they got a 5-yard penalty in the game. They got to delay a game. So everybody's doing it. So certainly I think something is going to be looked at. That, and along with the injured player, that are falling down. I think maybe the SEC mentioned that or talked about it last week. So those are two things that I think are certainly prominent now in college football.
Any questions for Coach? Thank you.
All right, thanks guys.
Appreciate it.